Good afternoon, um, viewers. Welcome to FIDAO's initiative for academic excellence for the 5th East Africa Community Summit. And we are glad that you have gotten the opportunity to join us as we discuss this important topic for the day, which is a key topic which always crops up every 5 years. And of course, we have been joined by our guests from Kenya and Uganda. We are waiting for our guests from Tanzania, whom should be joining us shortly. But because of time, should be able to join us as we proceed. And before we commence officially this seminar, I would like to invite our president so that he can give the welcoming remarks. Welcome, Mr. Karim Aziz.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. Kindly confirm if I can be heard.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So let me start by appreciating our board of directors at FIDAO's Initiative for Academic Excellence for approving the summit, distinguished guest speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from West Africa. It is with great honor and delight that I welcome you all to the 5th edition of the East African Summit organized by FIDAO's Initiative for Academic Excellence under the leadership of the heads of Leadership and Good Governance Unit, who equally doubles as the country representative for Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, Mr. Patrick Mamo. Over the years, this summit has become a platform for dialogue, scholarship, and collaboration where important issues as it affects East Africa is being brought to the fore. And this year we gather under the timely theme, which is elections in East Africa, prospects, challenges, and expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that elections remain at the heart of democratic governance. And in East Africa, they carry the promise of unity, transformation, and progress. However, they also present challenges, ranging from electoral malpractices, violence, disinformation, institutional weakness, and question of inclusivity and credibility. At the same time, these expectations of our people remain high. People want free and fair and transparent process that guarantee justice, peace, and prosperity. Now, across the East Africa region, elections are moments of both hope and tension. They provide an opportunity for citizens to exercise their sovereign rights, to choose leaders who reflect their aspirations, and to strengthen democratic institutions. But at the same time, they often test the resilience of our people, of our society. They expose gaps in governance, inclusivity, security, and trust in electoral system and the process. So as we reflect today, we must consider the following. What prospects lie ahead for East Africa in building stronger democracies? How can we confront the recurring challenges of electoral malpractices, disinformation, violence, and marginalization? And most importantly, how do we rise to meet the expectations of millions of East Africans who yearn for elections that are peaceful, transparent, and at the same time transformative? Therefore, as we deliberate today, let us not only analyze the challenges, but also envision the opportunities and chart pathways that strengthen democratic institutions, safeguard human rights, and inspire confidence in the electoral process across our region, that is East Africa. On behalf of our own organization, Fridaus Initiative for Academic Excellence, I want to genuinely extend our deepest gratitude to all the distinguished speakers outlined today who have joined us. We believe that your presence affirms the importance of collective dialogue in shaping East Africa's democratic journey. And I want to use this opportunity to appreciate also Mr. Patrick, who has put this together, and equally our Assistant Director of Program, Mr. Swale Ewed Mengo, whose portfolio the rest of you need to report to. So on behalf of Readers Initiative for Academic Excellence, I welcome you once again and hereby declare the fifth edition of the East African Summit officially open. Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for officially opening our seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined by our distinguished guests from the three countries, that is Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And I can confirm that all of them, they're in the building. And so without wasting much time, allow me introduce our guests. And I will start with our guest from Kenya. Our guest from Kenya is John Masirivawe Songa. John Masirivawe Songa is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He is a certified mediator and a member of the Law Society of Kenya and Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, Kenya branch. He holds a postgraduate diploma in law from the Kenya School of Law. He holds a Bachelor of Laws from Riara University, Nairobi, Kenya. He is a former legal assistant at Rowena and Company Advocates and Masinda Mdivo and Associates Advocates. Currently, he is the managing partner at Wesonga Masirivai Advocates. He is also a committee member at the United Democratic Alliance Party Dispute Resolution Committee, which is the ruling party here in Kenya. He is a legal researcher and drafter at the Presidential Task Force for the Improvement of Terms and Conditions of the Members of National Police Service, Kenya, Prison Service, and National Youth Service. And he is currently pursuing Masters of Law, Corporate Governance at Robert Kennedy College, University of Cabriya, Zurich, Switzerland. Welcome, Mr. John Wesonga.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for such wonderful introduction. I'm humbled. Thank you.
You're much welcome. To our second guest from Uganda, we have Abao Santra. Abao Santra is an advocate of the High Court of Uganda. She holds a postgraduate diploma in legal practice attained from Law Development Center, Uganda. She holds a Bachelor of Laws degree from Kampala International University, Kampala, Uganda. While at Kampala National University, she served as a Guild Member of Parliament representing the School of Law, that is from 2019 to 2020. And currently, she is a legal associate at Twinamasiko and Agaba Advocates, Mbarara, Uganda. Welcome, Abao Santra.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you for inviting me. I'm glad and I appreciate to be here.
All right, you are much welcome. And now to our third or our last guest from Tanzania. Her name is Mary Kitururu. Mary Kitururu is a lawyer and interpreter for English, Swahili, and Chinese languages. She holds a degree in law from the University of Dar es Salaam. And currently, she is a consultant in legal matters, documentation, and development projects. Welcome, Madam Mary.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm also very happy to be a part of this event today. I'm really hoping that you're going to have to learn a lot together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mary. So, ladies and gentlemen, without wasting time, I want us to now proceed and look at the election in South Africa, looking at the prospects, challenges, and expectations. And so to start with, Mkanso Wesonga, uh, the upcoming elections in South Africa. This year we are having Tanzania in October, we have Uganda next year, January, and then we have August 2027 in Kenya. Do we have any opportunities that these elections present to the members of East Africa in deepening the democratic governance?
Thank you so much, Patrick, for that question. And I really once again take this opportunity to appreciate the organizers of this wonderful event, and also just to give me an opportunity to talk to my peers, and not only in Kenya, but also in East Africa and also Africa. And I appreciate this. I don't take this for granted. So before I embark to your question, elections, it is not something that is very traditional, especially in Africa and also in the humanity. This is something that we've learned, and through learning, we've come a long way. You remember the first election to be held in Kenya, for example. I'll be biased because I come from Kenya. It was in 1920. And in that election, no African was allowed to vote. The first African who was allowed to vote and to be voted for was in the election in 1957. So you can imagine the election in 1920, 1927, 1930, 1934, 1939, 1944, 1949, 1952, up to 1957. No African was allowed to be voted for, and no African was allowed to vote. So this is something that we've learned, and we've come a long way. So it is not something that we can say, this is traditional, this is ours, and we are going to do like this or like that. So it's something that we are learning, and we've learned from, we can say, from our colonial masters, and we keep on learning even up to date. So if you are learning something, it means you are going to miss a lot of missteps. You are going to, along the way, you are going to learn, and you are going to do something that maybe by the end of the day will not be termed to be okay. So it depends. It's all subjective. So now, to embark to your question about if there are opportunities in East Africa, we are going to have elections in Uganda, in Tanzania, and also in Kenya, just barely 2 years. In 2027, we are going to have elections. Are there any opportunities that we see that we can like take or grapple with, or something that we can work with? My answer will be in affirmative, and I will say a simple yes. Human beings, as human beings, we learn from history. And given our history, especially in Kenya, we've tried almost all methods of elections. For example, we've even tried something in Swahili we call mlolongo. That is 1988, whereby during the election time, people stand behind the portrait of someone that you want to vote for. So we tried that, and history will put us in the books of, not in the side good and in the side that is good, because in that you can see there's a lot of rigging and whatnot. So we've come a long way, and after almost every 5 years, especially in Kenya, there's a lot of tension, because election does not only give us an opportunity to choose our leaders, but also it gives us an opportunity to determine how we are going to be governed. So it is sometimes in the election, during election period, most of the time is a matter of life and death, whereby it's either my way or the highway. If not my way, let's take the highway. And most of the people that are in the influential position, myself included, we take these things like it means it's either me or no one else. So just to looking at the past events, like in Kenya, we've had a lot of violence associated with the election and voting. The first one, we've had an attempted coup in 1982 that was associated with who was to hold the highest office in land. Another violence that we've seen in 1988, though it was not that mad, in 1992, there was some tribal violence whereby people fought and people killed each other, and there was a lot of destruction of property, life, and displacement of other people, whereby people were not happy with the results. In 1997, still, there was some, even though it was not that big, we can say there was also some sort of political intolerance. In 2007, 2008, the elections of December of 2007, that was the turning point in Kenya, whereby most people died. Around 10,000 people and around 600,000 people were displaced. And this was mad, basically due to most people were not happy, or the opposition was not happy with the results. In 2013, even though now we've had our new constitution in 2010, whereby it now gives the leeway of, if you are not happy, especially with the presidential elections or results, there is a legal leeway or where you can have your matters and redressed in court. So we did not hear or see a lot of violence, but still there was some unrest in 2013, 2017, and recently in 2022. So 2027, especially for us in Kenya, we expect nothing different, even though we don't expect the same. So the country is going to be in a lot of tension, but that notwithstanding, there are a lot of reforms that we've tried to achieve as a country. I know maybe we will have an opportunity to discuss that. But now, just to answer the question that Patrick asked, if there are any opportunities that we see, not only in Kenya, but also in East Africa, Africa, and basically the whole world. Like recently, we've seen what has happened in Nepal. It's almost exact replica of what happened in Kenya in last year, in 2024, where the Gen Zs were protesting all over. But now for them, they have gone over and beyond. So what is that? What lessons can we learn from that? It is an opportunity for us to learn this, to take this as an opportunity to learn and not to repeat it again. So what are some of the real opportunities that we see that we can achieve as a country, as a region, as a continent, and also as the world? So we see an opportunity in the election to express our will. You know, election is the hallmark, is the heartbeat, is like the backbone of democracy. Without election, there's no democracy. So you see, if we are saying we are a democratic country, what determines that democracy? The first element of a democracy is the election. And this election should not just be an event of one day. Election, as we all sometimes we say, it is a process. It's a process from preparation, from the laws, from campaigning, from even controlling the finances during the campaign, all that, and even voting and counting and announcing of the vote. All that is the process that we say election is not just an event, it is a process that entails a lot of bits and bits and bits. So it's an opportunity for us as citizens to choose or to determine who are going to be our leaders. Not just that, but it's also an opportunity for us as citizens and any other person who is eligible to vote and also to be voted for. So if you want, for example, to put yourself in that position, it's an opportunity also for you to gauge how you can play around. So it is also an opportunity to exercise your right. We say you are a democratic country or a continent or whatnot, depending. I know there are different types of democracy. But now it's that an opportunity that comes out or comes along with that opportunity for you to vote or also to be voted for. And also, these elections, I know, happening in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, it's going to give people an opportunity to determine the people that they are going to lead them. So it is an opportunity that people will not take for granted, because most people that are going to be elected, they're going to have a direct impact of what or how the country is going to be governed. You know, most of the time, like right now, economy of the world all over, it is not doing very well. And when the economy is not doing very well, the first person you think of is your political leaders, not only the president, but your senator, for example, your governor, for example. That is when you're in Kenya. You are a member of parliament, you are a member of county assembly. Those are the people that you think first thing if something is not working right. For example, if your road is not in good condition, if the products, the prices are skyrocketing, the first person you think of is not even about you having money. You think of what kind of people did you elect? Why is the economy not working? So that election gives us an opportunity to determine the kind of people that we are going to put in the offices. And also elections normally give the government the legitimate expectation to govern with authority. You know, a government that has been voted for by the people, it becomes a government for the people, and they tend to have that legitimate authority or legitimate expectation to rule with authority, knowing very well, for example, in Kenya, after every 5 years, they will have to go back to the same people and do something we call like a scorecard to show we've done this, we've done that, we've done that, and therefore we would want you to add us 5 more years, for example. So the government will rule with authority. Compare if it's voted for by the majority of the populace compared to a government that has maybe bestowed itself against the will of the people. And also, I know there are basic, sometimes basic human rights that are violated most of the time, not only in Kenya, not only in South Africa, but also world over. But if a country is going to an election, for example, most people in the power, in the position of authority, will not violate these rights outrightly. So election also gives us an opportunity for protection of basic human rights, because the people in authority, when it comes to an electioneering period, they will need to justify their actions, and we will put them on a scorecard. And if during the regime there were a lot of human rights that were being violated, that will mean they will have flimsy or minimal chances of being voted for. So basically, these elections that we are going to have in Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania, they give us an opportunity for the government of the day to protect human rights. They don't have a choice. It's either they protect the human rights as basic as that, or we will put them on the scorecard. So I know there is a lot of debate on that about protection of human rights, but a basic and a genuine concern will be, if I want to be voted for, it means I'll have to behave. And in that behavior, I'll have to do what the populace demands of me. And basically, is to protect human rights. So, Wakili Patrick, to me, I see these are some of the basic opportunities that I see arising, or I see that we can take advantage of during this electioneering period, not only in Kenya, but also in Uganda and Tanzania, basically in our East African region. Thank you so much, Wakili. You can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council Wesonga, for enably dissecting the likely opportunities that these elections will bring forth to our East Africa countries. In Uganda, when I was, listening to the Electoral Commission and of course also the ruling party, uh, they have said that they have made some electoral reforms which will enhance stability to ensure that there are no violence in the election, and of course this cuts across in East Africa. So I would wish to understand from Council Habao Santra, how can these reforms enhance political stability in East Africa states?
Thank you so much, Patrick. About the Electoral Commission reforms, before I answer that question, I would like to first go back to the opportunities so that maybe we can understand more. What John gave was in the whole perspective of East Africa as a community. And I would like to dissect more on the side of Uganda, because what he discussed is kind of different from what is experienced here in Uganda. First of all, democratic governance is a big dish. It's a big basket that has rule of law, transparency, and accountability. At one point, John talked about having opportunities that we can see in the upcoming elections. But in Uganda, the election started in July 2025, this year. And they started with the NRM primaries, with the looking at one point after the NRM primaries, after people have voted for the flag bearers, they put it in mind that these flag bearers are actually their voted representatives in parliament. So it stays at that. And it's as if at one point of time, they forget the general elections. And mostly in the up-country areas, maybe not in Kampala, central Uganda, because that has most of the opposition, the National Unity Platform, the NUP. But in up-country areas where NRM has a stronghold, after the NRM primaries, it is in their mind that these flag bearers, who are actually voted by lining up, John said something about in Kenya exploring the lining up behind the portrait of the candidate, and then it didn't seem right. But in Uganda, that's what is done. That's how they vote for the flag bearers of the NRM. Yes. So after the voting of the NRM flag bearers in the up-country, they have in their mind, these are the representatives. At some point, they start actually calling them the honorables, and the ones who have actually been in parliament and were not able to hold the flag in the primaries, they stop their duties there and then as the representatives of the constituencies. So in an example that I was maybe I'm the representative, the member of parliament from my constituency, and I'm from NRM, and maybe in these primaries I am voted out. It is assumed my duties stop from there. I may go outside and they won't even recognize me as the member of parliament because there's a flag bearer who's already having the flag to represent NRM at the general elections. And what you asked about democratic governance, for Uganda, I believe it is too late for now, for the upcoming elections of 2026. Yes, you talked about the Electoral Commission announcing having put out reforms, but there are not going to be any reforms in the upcoming elections, if the reforms are actually not being seen as tangible, we still have the same electoral commission chaired by Honorable Biabakama. It is not going to do anything. The Electoral Commission of Uganda, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Uganda, is appointed by the sitting president. And you know the sitting president of Uganda, who it has been for the past 40 years. So whichever electoral reforms have been announced, it's going to be the same. We still have political prisoners in prison who have been in prison since as far back as 2020, before the general elections of the last general elections of 2021. So I don't always like to be pessimistic, but in this case, in the case of Uganda, I feel like we have lost all the hope. And another thing, the main thing that is affecting elections in Uganda is commercialization. Most of the elections in Uganda are overly commercialized. There was some debate on Twitter with the members of parliament and former members of parliament, mostly Honorable Evelyn Anite, when she said that in the last election where she was voted out by the people of Koboko, she used 500 billion shillings in the whole process. Yes, she couldn't present evidence on that, but that is what is happening in Uganda. The commercialization of the voting process, of paying the electorate before the voting process, before and after, is something that has highly affected the kind of people that are voted to represent their constituencies in parliament. And in Uganda, I don't think we still have hope for now for the 2026 election with the reforms that have been announced by the Electoral Commission. And I don't want to take up so much time, but wait, another thing, apart from commercialization, another thing that drives people to vote for representatives they don't actually have much belief in, the ones that they don't actually believe in, because people vote for the party in upcountry Uganda. People vote for the party, not for the person. People vote for NRM. That's why it usually has the highest number of seats in parliament. They vote for NRM and not for the person. Because most of the times, people who are representing NRM as flag bearers are the ones who put so much money in the election. And another thing, people have PTSD, the PTSD of Museveni. His Excellency Museveni saved us from the Amins and the Obotes. So if we vote for someone else, he has been here all this long. If we vote for someone else, we are going to have the war. We are going to have a repeat of what happened in 1979. So that is also one of the things that greatly affects the voting process. And there is election violence. That is something that I don't know. It's there. It is still happening. Just last week, people from representatives and from the National Unity Platform were arrested on allegations of drilling and wearing uniform and all those other things. And that is when the election violence starts, with the political prisoners. And by general elections, the violence is going to be high, mostly from the opposition. And then they're going to shut social media off. They're going to have the political representatives from the other presidential candidates from other political parties house arrested, like what happened to Bobi Wine in the last election and all that. So however much the EC has announced reforms, I am not hopeful about those reforms actually taking place or actually changing anything in this electoral process that has already started in Uganda. And as John ended with saying that if you wanted to be voted, or if you want to be voted, you have to behave. I believe in Uganda, if you want to be voted, then you have to misbehave. Thank you, Patrick.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Awesome dissection of that component of whether we have whether the implementation of electoral reforms shall be done. And of course, having been in Uganda for a while, I'm able to align with your school of thought. Nevertheless, let's see how, since of course they say an election is not a one-day event, it's a process. Probably, let's see how the same shall be implemented by the time we approach the elections early next year. Of course, Tanzania in the next, I think, 1 or 2 months, they shall be, proceeding to the general elections. And sometimes back, I saw no reforms, no elections. Uh, do we have any reforms in Tanzania, Madam Mary?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Apparently, with the issue of Tanzania, it's a bit. Um, I'm really trying to find a term to put it for Tanzania because at this moment, of course, a lot of people are getting ready for the elections, and the thing is that in Tanzania we have two main political parties. So we have the CCM, Chama cha Mapinduzi, and then we have the opposition, the leading opposition political party, which is Chadema. Now, with Tanzania on this side, it looks like the Chadema people have actually, like, how do I say kususa in English? I'm Tanzanian. So it's like Chadema wamesusa. It's like Chadema wamesusa uchaguzi. So it is the CCM on the front line. It is the CCM who are putting the posters. It is the CCM who are saying vote for us. You understand? And the Chadema are there saying that if there is no reform, there is no election. And apparently the leading political party, the political party leader, the leading leader for the opposition political party also has some issues, has a case, and the case is still going on. So it is even become more difficult for the opposition party to take part in the elections, since their leader is also having some challenges to deal with, and a lot of scenarios happening. Now, I think the issue with Tanzanians is that we have a lot of people in the social media. Of course, we have a lot of no elections, no reform, no elections happening in the social media. But in reality, in Tanzania, if you want to take part in the voting process, you have to register in the voting book. In the book for the voting, you need to have a voting permit, like the card. Inaitwa kadi ya mpiga kura. You need to have that. Like when you have that card, it shows that you are eligible to vote for your leader. You understand? Now, a lot of people don't want to go and register. Like a lot of people be saying, like, even if I go to register, it's still the CCM who is going to win, and a lot of things. So they say, whatever it is, whatever will happen, let it happen. Now, these are the very same people who come to the social media and complain that if there is no reform, there is no election. But then I think what I really want to say is that if we want to have the reform starts with us. You understand? Like if people don't want to go and register because they think that even if they don't register, the changes will not happen. I mean, the changes they want will not happen because the leading political party will still take the votes or steal the votes or whatever will happen. I think that is what is delaying us from reaching the actual democracy goal that we intend to reach. But then also, like, I was also happy with the speech for this person in Uganda. She's really made me happy when she said, like, she made me laugh when she said, like, Uganda has lost all hope. But there is something I want to say, like, for real. I understand when you say Uganda has lost hope because at the stage you people have been, it's difficult to come back. But I also want to say, like, change starts with all of us. Like, it's going to be difficult, really. It's going to require a lot of sacrifice. Like, And yes, the thing is that it's also difficult to be the one to sacrifice. Like, you understand, like, if you have to be the one, you have to go just because your country can get whatever democracy that they want is also not easy. Like, like for us, it's happening in our country. Like, people are saying, like, it's our, for Chadema, the guy has decided to sacrifice. He's sacrificing for the country. He's sacrificing for the change. And apparently the guy now is in court. This person called Lisu, Tundu Lisu. So apparently the guy has got a case, and it's really hectic for him. And people are saying, well, the guy has decided that he's going to be the one to sacrifice for the democracy of the country and all that stuff. But believe me, it's not easy. It is not easy to be like, me, I'm the one sacrificing for my country. Like, just because for everybody to be happy and to have all that democracy and stuff. Like, I understand. I know it's not easy, but I really hope that the Ugandans can also reach at that level of democracy that they're dreaming about. It may not be easy for now, or it may not be soon, but I really pray that a couple of years to come, or sometime later, that you people witness what democracy looks like. And apparently, of course, I also want to say, like, democracy is also a bit difficult in the whole of East Africa. It's not easy to reach to that democracy level. I'm sure the Kenyans are also having their own troubles with their government. I saw the riots and the strikes, and also the Tanzanians are really also trying hard to get to learn and adapt, but for us it's a bit very difficult to even like think about rioting. It's difficult for us to even tell you, like, the moment you even think about rioting at your home, and we know about it, you're going to have to answer for it. So it is not easy for this side, but Kenya is really trying to work hard on the changes they want to bring and stuff. So yes, what I want to say that for Tanzania, may at least I know that Mama Samia is winning, because if the opposition political party is not ready to take part, so it's Mama Samia is going to win. Because if you go on the roads and everywhere it is CCM and the opposition parties, there are no elections, no reform. But the elections is happening. The thing is that if you say there is no election, there is no reforms, there is no elections, but apparently the elections are taking place. For me, I would literally advise them, like, if they want, they could just take part, whatever thing they have in the heart, they could make the amendments later after the elections, because apparently the elections is happening. Whether they say there is no reform, there is no elections, October is still happening. The ruling party is already choosing their contestants, and the president is already there, posters and everything. So for my country, there's a lot of things happening for now, but yeah, I'm hoping things will be fine. It is also a great opportunity to learn. We are learning different political, how to handle political matters. For me, like, I'm really learning a lot. Like, for me, my father even tells me, like, Mary, if you want to make the change that you want to have, just make it, like, usisuse kwa sababu unajua wanasema wanasema Waswahili wanasema ukisusa sisi twala, it's what is happening in Tanzania. Yani the opposition political party wamegoma, wanasema sisi hatutaki, hatufanyi. But the ruling party is doing it. Yani ni kama political party ya ruling inakula na Mama Samia is winning na bado wako pale wanalalamika. And it's just difficult. It's a lot of things happening kwa kweli. Yani for my country, because yani ukienda kwenye social media, if you go to the social media for my country, I know it is a lot of no reforms, no elections, but the thing is that the election is taking place. Like, you understand? The election is taking place and Mama Samia is winning and people are whining. But it is taking place and she's winning. And she's still coming for the next 5 years. So, for my country, it's also a lot of things happening, but it's also a wide moment. It's also a moment for us to learn. We are learning as youth. We're going to be future leaders. So there is a lot we are learning. These elections, I know, will not be easy. But it's also an opportunity for the youth to learn. And I hope we're going to reach the goal we intend to reach. Yeah.
Mary, just a follow-up question. Of course, we understand the opposition is absconding or they want to abscond the election. Yeye ndo kususa Kiswahili kigumu kidogo. Uh, but just a follow-up question. Is it not the intention by
Is
the
it not
government?
what? It is not. Is it not what?
Is it not intention from the government by framing up charges against the main opposition leader, Lisu, and I understand you're a lawyer,
Yes.
to ensure that they don't participate in the elections, so that they just let CCM, Chama cha Mama, to have a smooth ride in the election?
Yes. So I understand your question. It's a very nice question. Like for us, with the opposition, with the leading opposition political leader for now, with us, me, I can say that man has got challenges. Me, I don't know for other people, but apparently, that man during Magufuli's reign, he used to oppose Magufuli. The man was shot like 13 times, and the man did not die. Me, I'm even happy he's alive. It is not easy. The man used to oppose Magufuli a lot. Like the man used to say a lot of things about Magufuli, like Magufuli is not democratic, Magufuli is a dictator, Magufuli is a whatever. And he was shot and did not die. He went out of Tanzania for a couple of months. He wasn't coming back. And apparently after Magufuli passed away, so Mama Samia even went to see him and they talked things over, you understand? And then the man came back, the man returned to the country. So at first, yeah, it was calm. Now, apparently this man right now is saying that Magufuli was better off than Mama Samia. You understand? Like when Magufuli was alive, this man was the one saying that Magufuli is a dictator. You understand? And right now, again, after Mama Samia went to see him and stuff, he's now saying that Mama Samia now is a dictator. You understand? Now, a lot of things like people ask him is that, like, if Mama Samia came to see you when the man was shot, Mama Samia apparently went to see him. And people are like, if Mama Samia went to see you and then you negotiated things over, you talked about things over, and you were not in Tanzania for all those months, but apparently she let you come back to the country. Don't you think that this matters of you wanting a new constitution? Like you can apparently talk to her and then reach a conclusion to have the new constitution, just like you people had this good conversation for you to come back to the country. But then apparently also about his case, I know apparently, I definitely understand that the government's intention is to have him locked up for a while until the elections are done. I definitely understand. But I also heard the speech this man gave that made him get into trouble. Apparently, this man said that if there is no new constitution, they are going to cause chaos in the country. If they don't get a new constitution, they will definitely cause chaos in the country, in Tanzania. Now, apparently with Tanzanians, when you tell us that you're bringing us chaos, kidogo is a lot of things happening. It's not easy for Tanzanian to swallow that because of a constitution, bro, you want to bring us chaos in our country. We are not used to that kind of things for real. For Kenyans, me, I understand. Kenyans did that. I saw you people did the thing you did. You people are strong, like so good, like all there. But for Tanzanians, for Tanzania, the moment you mention that you're going to be bringing chaos, first of all, we think what kind of chaos is that you are thinking of bringing just for a constitution? Like for us, we are used to negotiation. For us, we are used to sitting down and making conversation and having things happen. But when you say you're bringing white, it's a bit difficult to swallow. It's a bit difficult to whatever. But with Lesu, I know his case will be over. I know they will take him out. I know apparently that he will be out, but at least after the elections. Because nobody is ready for that kind of chaos that he's planning. So apparently the government being involved and the government, the ruling party wanting to win this election without no chaos, without no disturbance. I think they will hold him inside for a while. Until when they are pleased that they have won the election. It's not easy. This democracy thing is not easy. In Tanzania, in Uganda, in Kenya, in the whole of East Africa, it is not easy. I feel like every country is coming with their own form of chaos. It's coming with their own form of drama. But, well, let's see what's going to happen.
All right, thank you, Mary, for dissecting and then letting us of the happenings
Yeah.
in Tanzania. Council Wesonga, all our guests here today, they are the young people, and I'm very sure we have had their perspective in the upcoming election. We had about Sandra in Uganda that she, of course, already has no belief in what in this election, that it will just be another formality. Again, I've had Mary again from Tanzania. Her sentiments, on what is happening and 1 month to the election. From your perspective, and you having been in Kenya for a while and understanding what has been happening, uh, do you think, or what would be the role of the youth, in reforming the election process in East Africa?
Thank you so much, Council. And I don't know, I don't know where to start. I've had the speakers from Uganda and Tanzania, and I can just sympathize with what's happening there, because it's not a laughing matter, even though they try to bring it with a lot of humor, with a lot of, not that serious, but to me, democracy and human rights are very pertinent issues that we need to be serious about. And I can understand with Uganda. I can understand, and we can give them a slack a bit. Given their history, they have a reason. Uganda and Rwanda, they have a reason. But that should not be a stumbling block to even enjoying the basic human right. Right now, the right to vote is very basic, because it determines your next course of living. It is basic, and it's high time we need to start having that discussion, even with Tanzanians. So basically, we are just saying that election laws are just there to sugarcoat or just ceremonial. Even whatever we are going to experience in Uganda and Tanzania, it's just ceremonial voting, but by the end of the day, we know who will win. So it's like elections got nothing to do with the results. Results are already predetermined, and that is a very risky venture. We need to start now as youth, and I will come to that a bit later. There's a question that you asked my colleagues about the reforms. It doesn't matter whether it's happening in Uganda, whether it's happening in Kenya, whether it's happening in Tanzania, but we need to start this discussion. They need to come out fast. What reforms do we want after we've realized these are the reforms that we want? And these reforms will lead to these results. Now, we need to take these reforms and take them seriously. And by the end of the day, it's a bit by bit. If you want to go somewhere, you start by that one single step. If you want to, for example, you want to hit the stone and you want to break this stone, it starts by one single hit. So it doesn't mean that first step or that first hit is not important. It builds up, and by the end of the day, the results will be determined by that one single step that you took. So what are these reforms that we want as a country, as a region, as a continent, as a world, for example? What are these reforms that we want? So to me, the shortest time that I've been in the public, if I can say, some of the reforms that I've seen, especially happening in Kenya, and I believe they can happen anywhere in the world, be it Uganda, Tanzania, or wherever. Some of these reforms, for example, we need to be realistic about the boundaries that we want, especially, for example, in Kenya, we have the constituencies. So we need to be realistic about these boundaries. So these are some of the reforms. For example, if we eliminate the boundaries, lack of our electoral body in place, that is IBC, the commissioners have not been there since 2023. They've just been put in place this year. The country missed a step about delimitation of the boundary. The constitution says it's supposed to happen not after 8 years, but not less than 12 years. But when you look at since 2012, right now we are almost 1.5 decades and counting. So we've missed a step to delimitate these electoral boundaries. So these are some of the reforms that we can be realistic with. We cannot be using the boundaries that were drawn by our colonial masters. Some of them were not very realistic, and some things have changed even right now. So people have given birth to others. We are many. So we need to be realistic about the boundaries that we want. Another reform that we can talk of is elimination of electoral anomalies. For example, I'm saddened to hear or to note or to know that even Uganda right now, people are still voting using what we call quote unquote mlolongo, whereby people stand behind a portrait of a candidate. What the heck is that? It's not fair. At this age and era, that is not fair at all. Voting is a personal right. You should not, even your wife should not know that whom you voted for. Even your son, your daughter, no one should know whom you voted for. But if we say that you're going to stand behind a portrait of a candidate, that does not only risk my life as a person, but also it leads to voter apathy. I will not go vote because it will be like nothing, or people will know that I've voted for that candidate instead of voting for that candidate, and I'll put my life at risk. So it is sad to note that in the 21st century, that's still happening. So we need to get rid of these electoral anomalies, and that's one of them. In Kenya, we tried that in 1988. It backfired until 1992, when we amended Section 2A of our previous constitution that allowed now multi-party democracy. And we've come from far. I'm not saying that we are better off than other countries, but at least you can see there are some steps being undertaken, and there's some accountability attached to some of these steps. Another reform that I can talk about is just strengthening our legislative structures. A country without a rule of law is like a dead log. You're going nowhere. And what can make this rule of law be accountable? Having sweet or just good laws and not implementing the same will not help. But we need those structures. We need to put structures in place that determine each and every provision in the law, in the constitution, in the statutes are there, and they're being followed, and there is accountability attached to it or attached to them. By the end of the day, if we are genuine about ourselves, we will go where we want, and these things that we talk about, this voter apathy, people just being afraid that if I say this, the government will come for me. But if there are structures in place whereby even if they arrest you, for example, they need to take you to court within specified period of time. They need to read charges against you, and they need to determine which provision of the law that you've broken or you've gone against, or the offense itself. And you need to understand about the punishment attached to it. So if we are serious about these provisions, by the end of the day, we will all be winners. And when I heard about my colleague from Uganda talking about NRM and how the populace vote for the party instead of voting for an individual, it is equally sad. So the country or the state or the government that is in place, it needs to be genuine about this And we need to come up with laws. I know in Kenya we have tried. We have the laws that control how political parties use finances. Each and every political party in Kenya is financed by the government. And if the government is financing you, you have to have accountability in place. So all these political parties, they report to parliament on how they have used their monies. And by the end of the day, you'll feel there's some sort of accountability attached to it. So, and that's why I know even in Kenya, we still have that problem whereby people will vote for a political party instead of an individual. That has happened since we got our independence in 1963. We voted for Kanu until 2002, when now NAC came in. We voted for NAC a short bit in 2007. In 2013, at least, we could see people are being voted as a person and not as where your political party is. But we've seen that thing arising again in 2022, that just the recent election, whereby there was this the party that I'm in, the ruling party. So most people, especially where our president comes from, the Rift Valley and some bit of, basically from the Rift Valley, if you are not in that political party, your chances of winning one next to none. So these problems, I know they're there, but if we are genuine about enforcing or just being genuine at the government of the day, being genuine about enforcing the laws that we try to come up with, by the end of the day, as much as these problems will be there, but they'll be minimal. So at least right now in Kenya, people will tend to vote for an individual. Yes, the political party matters a lot, but by the end of the day, why am I voting for you? Or why am I putting myself out there to be voted for? It is about you as a person and the things that you are bringing on board, the changes that you want to bring that will determine how our political affiliations will be. There are a lot of independent people that were voted for in the recent elections. They were not owing allegiance to either of the political divide. We even had a governor that, even though she was impeached, sad to say, had a governor of the county of Meru. She was an independent candidate that she won without owing allegiance to either of the political party. We have members of parliament who are independent. So it just shows how it is not impossible for you to be voted for without actually being in a certain political divide. I know it is difficult, but it is not impossible. Something that we also need to be genuine about is about our electoral bodies. How independent are these electoral bodies? Are these just rubber stamping the decisions of the executive? What laws have we put in place to make sure that they are really independent? How is that chairperson or the head of that electoral body? How are the operations being governed? I know by the end of the day, there's nothing really called independence, actually, because we coexist. All these bodies coexist. Even the government, they coexist. We know there are three arms of government. We tend to say, oh, the judiciary is independent, oh, the executive, oh, the legislature. But by the end of the day, the executive tends to have these arms that will find its way along the way to the heart of these other arms of government, because it controls finances. When you control finance, basically you control everything. When you control security, basically you control everything. So I know we don't live in a void or in an ideal world whereby we are saying this is independent and we want our acts to be like this. We coexist, but are there structures that really make these bodies to be independent? Are there structures that really attach accountability to the actions of these bodies, or they're just there for ceremonial purposes, and by the end of the day, the government of the day determines who wins elections? Especially the most contentious one normally is the presidential election. And I know after we've looked at some of these reforms and being genuine about ourselves, by the end of the day, we will have political stability. Because one thing about politics is once you're genuine with yourself and you can agree with the results, by the end of the day, you'll be contented. And once you as a person you are contented with the results, basically there will be no cause for violence, there will be no cause for tension, there will be no cause for even heightened security, because each and every person is contented with the results. Some of the also a reform that I forgot is about embracing technology. So if we embrace technology, by the end of the day, the results will be verifiable, the results will be fair, and the results will be accountable. Yes. Now, looking at going back to the question that I was asked about the place of youth, in the election, and also in making sure that these reforms are being taken care of. You know, world over, the biggest populace or the biggest population is comprised of youths. So it doesn't matter how you want to define who a youth is, but anyone who is below the age of 35 years and is above the age of being a teenager, basically from 15, 16, 17 and above, they are considered to be youths. And I believe if not all of us here, most of us here are youths. And that's why we've decided to have this discussion. We are the backbone of any economy. We are the backbone of any country. So what is our place as far as electoral reforms are concerned? We've seen what has happened in Kenya in the recent past. The youths have risen up. The youth have said, this is not the government that we voted for. What you're doing is not right. We want this and this and this to be done. And the head of state, our president, had to dissolve government for that matter. He dissolved the government and he appointed fresh people, or if not really fresh, but at least there was some shaking in the government. So it means if the youth stand up and really say, this is not what we want accountability, our people are being killed left, right, center, corruption is all over, people are living the kind of life that you don't expect as an individual. So they rose up, and we've seen changes. Some of them may not be 100% what we wanted, but at least there's some accountability attached to that. You know, youths right now also, we are the people that will, basically people say that we are the leaders of tomorrow. And we know right now, technology has taken the world all over. Our elders might not be in a hurry to use technology or to embrace technology, but we as youth, we can take advantage of the technology that we know right now. Even what we are doing right now, we are able to communicate to each other via technology. So if we can do this, it means we can also take that advantage and use it to do electoral reforms. By the end of the day, youths can also, if we support our own and we are genuine about it, we can determine how the countries, for example, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, or world over, is going to be governed in our terms. Most of the time, people say that old people have wisdom, but youths have the energy. So we get the wisdom from the old people, but the energy is ours. What if we deny them our energy? What will they do with their wisdom? So by the end of the day, we need to coexist. And if they are using our energy, we can just borrow a bit of their wisdom, and by the end of the day, they will have to either use our energy in the betterment of our lives, or we do away with them. It's not that hard. even though it's not something that we want, it's not a route that we want to take. By the end of the day, it is us and us alone. So the place of youth in determining who becomes what is very important, and is a discussion that is very wide. If we had time, we could proceed and have a discussion, a lengthy one, but in the interest of time, let me just end there, and we take direction from Patrick. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Council Wesonga, for highlighting, the reforms that you would wish to see, and again also the role that the youth needs to play in championing electoral process in East Africa. Madam Sandra, you talked about uh, issue to do with more on corruption. Uh, you know, those who have more resources, the leading party, you know, having resources, manipulating the election. My question would be how, does political corruption impact then the conduct and the outcome of election?
Thank you so much, Patrick, for the question. But I didn't get the question. So did you ask about how the commercialization or the corruption in elections impacts the kind of leaders that we get in the end?
How does it affect the outcome of the election?
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to relate it to the how should I call it? How much the masses educated about how they elect their leaders to represent them in parliament. So, like I already said in my past submission, elections in Uganda are highly and massively commercialized. I'm going to give a scenario from my constituency during the NRM flag bearers elections, the primaries. So the woman member of parliament, for every district in Uganda, there was a woman representative due to the affirmative action. So she was voted in 2021, the incumbent, and she did most of the things that she promised. And I also believe that if you're contesting mostly in Uganda, most of the constituents and the electorates don't actually know the roles of the member of parliament and how they are supposed to be represented and how their views are supposed to be represented in parliament. So in most instances, electorates vote according to what has been promised that is tangible more than what is supposed to be done by the member of parliament. So this member of parliament is married to the ED of National Water and Sewage Corporation of Uganda. So in her biggest manifesto, the main point was, if I'm voted into parliament, I'm going to make sure that most of the places, actually the hard to reach places in this constituency, are going to get water. Some may say that, yeah, she did her part, like she promised in her manifesto, and she did that. She brought water to most of the places, piped water to most of the places that didn't have it. But then, with the time that was coming up for the primaries, she didn't go back to the community because I think she believed she had done what she had promised the constituents and the electorates. So there's no need for her to go back and campaign as if she's starting the groundbreaking. So most of the people, she actually won the vote by a very small margin, because people always complained, oh, we voted for her and she's not coming back to us. And at one point, they said there was a rumor that was moving about that she was passing in some trading center and only bought soda and mandas, these shortcakes, the locally made. And that's the only thing she could offer. And that rumor started from a small trading center And before long, it was all over the constituency. And most of the people didn't vote her because of that. And the biggest concern was she has the money and she did not give us money. So we are not going to vote for her. And the opponents, they actually voted for, who is also coming back as an independent, and from the views and the reviews, who might win the seat. She didn't have the money, but she was voted because they want to spite the other one, the incumbent. So that shows how much people expect you as the candidate to put in money. And after that, they don't care whether you come back to them. They're just going to be complaining because they actually don't know what the member of parliament, what that representative is supposed to do for them when they reach in parliament. And most of them, if you hear them complaining, it is mostly about, oh, we voted Sandra and we even had a funeral, she didn't come. But the MP who comes and contributes 50,000 Uganda shillings, Kenyans, it is a very small amount. 50,000 is very small. 50,000 Uganda shillings at the funeral, then that one is doing the most. But what remains as the roles of the representative of parliament are overlooked during the electoral process. During the actual voting day, there is this thing that most candidates do on the eve of the voting day. The candidates, because at that point there are no campaigns allowed. So what they do, they have already identified that people are not going to vote for them from certain areas because they have coordinators, they have agents. And so if they know the household of John is not going to vote for me, the eve of the voting day, they're going to go through those households. And at night, in the cover, because now if they are got, it becomes a ground for petitioning the election itself. So they go through these households and paying large amounts of money to convince these people to vote for them. And then the question remains, if someone has spent over 500 billion, as one said, in the election itself, how much do you expect them to do for you when they actually get to parliament? How much do you think they're going to represent you when they reach in parliament? Because most of this time, we have had incidents of members of parliament being arrested for in debt recovery because they got loans they couldn't pay. So in this process of being in parliament, they just spend that time trying to repay the loans they acquired during the election process, because the election itself, the corruption is so high, the commercialization, the money is used in everything, the electorates, the agents, the polling agents themselves, and officials of the electoral commission. So if all this money, if this corruption goes into making sure that this person goes to parliament, then the outcome of that election is going to give you a representative who at this point cares about the money they put in the election more than the people who actually voted them into parliament. I hope I've answered your question, Patrick.
Yes, thank you a lot for your response. And I was just thinking, about how the challenges that the opposition normally face, in gaining the equitable access to political space. And I'm wondering what might be some of these challenges, that we find, our opposition being suppressed, not to have, an equitable uh, space, just like the government side. And I think, Madam Mary, you are able to answer this question. What are these challenges that we normally see the opposition facing in having an equitable political platform like the ruling government. Madam Mary.
Yes. Okay. I think the challenges that the opposition parties are facing are very many. But I think one of the biggest challenges is corruption. I think for East Africa, for Africa, corruption is a big problem for the whole part. Like this, Sandra was saying something about corruption, and I've been able to take part in a couple of election processes. I'm one of the young people in my country in Tanzania who have been taking part in the election and local government elections and stuff. And apparently, in Tanzania, when you want to take part in when you want to be voted for as a member of government or as the president, you have to pass through the people called the Wajumbe. And apparently I am one of them. I am a Mjumbe. How do I say this in English? How do we call the Wajumbes in English?
You're a delegate. It's a delegate.
Yes, as a delegate. Thank you. So apparently, if you want the Mjumbe to have you pass as a contender, because there is no way you're going to contest to be a member of the parliament if you have not been passed by the Mjumbe, the delegate, okay? So apparently for the Wajumbe to pass you, if there are 4 people or 5 people wanting to be members of the parliament, and probably a couple of them for the opposition party and a couple of them for the ruling party or whatever, now you have to give enough money to the Mjumbe to convince that Mjumbe to pass your name to go around and contest to be a member of parliament. You understand? So the way you talk to me, the amount of money you give me, in Tanzania, some people even print kangas. Do you people have kangas? I know they are there in Uganda. Yeah, they print kangas, they print T-shirts, they give money. Me, I was even at times given a bag of rice to bring home. The way they find that they're going to convince you to pass their name to elect and stuff, to pass the elections and to go with the contesting and stuff. So I mean, it's a lot of corruption involved, and for the opposition party, I think it may be a lot. It's not easy to go through all that corruption as the opposition party, and you're dealing with the party that is holding the treasuries, the tax systems of the country. What kind of money do you have, for example, to be competing with the ruling party? It's not easy. And then, well, another thing that is the opposition party is facing, another challenge. The opposition party has got a lot of youth, I understand. And the ruling parties, most of the ruling parties have got this, the old people in their sides. Now, I'll tell you something. Somebody said the youth are the help for current generation. I know that we the youth are for the current generation and a lot of things. I know, I definitely understand. But I'll give you an example in my country. In Tanzania, our ruling party has got a lot of old people as part of the CCM old people. Me, I'm a member of CCM, and people be like, why are you in the party for the old people? And I'm like, well, I'm just there. Like, you understand? Like, so old people, CCM has got a lot of old people who know, people who tell you stories about how we got independence, how Nyerere went and did whatever, people who know real history for what Nyerere did. You understand? And apparently, all those people, when it comes to elections, I was lucky to take part in nilienda kusimamia uchaguzi, and then all people are coming, like somebody wakes up very early in the morning to come and register so that they are able to vote for the leader in October when it is election. But when it comes to the youth, Sasa, you tell a youth, Yamani, me, I was even like told, like, you mobilize, have people go and register. I'll be like, guys, let's go and register. You know, like the election is coming and the youth, we have to vote and stuff. May have a lot of work. If you want to go and register and then you will vote on my behalf. Now, I know I know it's not easy to handle, but I still feel like the patriotism of the youth compared to the old people is still like, we still have a difference, because the old people apparently were there when we were having the independence. Like, they were there when they were fighting all these battles. They saw the independence they happened. People tell you stories about that thing. And for us youth, we were born when the independence was already there, and we find it like we take things so easy, we take things so light. You understand? Because me, I'm telling you, for example, even the no election, no reform thing that is no reform, no election thing that is happening, it's mostly the youth that are doing it. And I have a lot of friends who are doing this, who are there, and I'm like, and they are planning to strike. And I'm like, okay, like, when are you striking? When are you going to do all that? Because they're coming like, we are going to strike. We need the new constitution. I'm like, okay, when you people are going to be striking, just let me know. Like, me, I'll see if I can help, or if I can help you prepare stuff to go for striking. You understand? Because the youth are more into, I think some of the for the Tanzanian ones, I don't know for the other countries, but they are more into just saying it, speculating it, but coming into action, like more into action. The Kenyans are good. Like, I've seen the Kenyans, and the Kenyan youth are all there. Like, the action is good, but for Kenya, for Tanzania, and for Uganda, yeah, we still have to make to that. And of course, the opposition political parties go through the challenge. So it is also a big challenge for the opposition political party. But what I want to say is that, of course, we have discussed a lot of things in this meeting. But what I want to say is that unity and having a common understanding is very important. Having a common understanding as a people, like having a united mindset, is also very important. Like, we could be having all this debating moment, and of course, like, if I'm really trying to find a way to put this together, and I'm like, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Of course, like, we people have a great history. We have come together several meetings to have us be united as one. Of course, we succeeded in having one currency, the shilling, and we still have a lot we wanted to put together. Like, our founders wanted to have a lot of things happening for all of us. But I still think that we also need to work on that. Like, democracy is I'm really trying to find a good term to put this together. But still, what I want to say is that we can achieve the democracy we want, we can achieve the goal that we want, but we really need to have that united understanding, a common understanding of what we really want, and we're probably going to get there someday. Yeah, I think I've answered your question.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you a lot for your enlightening us on the challenges that, of course, opposition normally face during this electioneering period as compared to the ruling party candidates. Madam Santra, how can women's inclusion in politics transform electoral outcomes and governance?
Thank you so much. Women inclusion. So the Constitution of Uganda provides for affirmative action. So which means that out of for all the 135 districts that we have in Uganda, there is a woman representative for each district. And that means that we have 135 women representatives. But what I believe is these women were included. Yes, we women were included, were in the affirmative action. But as time went by, it just became tokenism. And people who are voted in as women representatives from the district to be members of parliament are not doing much for the women and for all the people they represent, because although the woman representative is supposed to be the representative of women, she is voted by all the constituents, the electorates in that constituents. So which means she also goes through the same processes as other members of parliament, the same thing that you have already seen, and the same scenario that I narrated to you, and all that. So most of the times, this woman who is in the village, what we call Omuntu Wawansi, the one who is in the village, does not actually get to see the benefits of having that woman representative in parliament. However, I believe that there are some instances where women can be included in not in parliament, but in politics, so that we can see a rise in democratic governance and transparency and accountability, rule of law, everything. And I believe that to achieve that, it has to start from civic education, for the people to know why they are voting, who to vote for, and what to do for them to get the representative that they want to have in parliament. So this is how women can, from my perspective, how women can be included in politics, because politics is everyone. People say we can't involve in politics, but I believe that if you are actually interested in the dynamics of the country and you're a voter and you're interested in the voting process, then you are part of politics. So in Uganda, we have community-based organizations that are actually not registered as that, and we call it a box, from the word box. So these mostly are for women, and almost at every village level there is that box. So women come together on a Sunday like this. Actually, most of them meet on Sunday at around 3 p.m. and they collect money, they save money in that box. So they have the rules maybe to save 5,000 per week or 2,000 shillings, Uganda shillings. So they come together and they discuss all kinds of things, and they have their leaders. So I believe that through these organizations, these boxes organization, because they really actually have a box for each of that group. They have a box where they put their savings, and in case one wants, and they have books where they write today, the 14th of September, I saved 5,000. And if you want a loan, you go there, and then they write somewhere that you have taken a loan for this, and you have to bring it by this with this kind of interest. And I believe that such groups actually bring women together, to the extent that if the leaders of these groups are actually educated on their civic roles as citizens of Uganda, then they can educate the others. And let's not forget that we can learn, a woman is like the backbone. So what a woman learns, it is easier for her to spread it, and it becomes known. So in those organizations, in this the groups, if women are actually included, I believe the inclusion in politics and all that, it can bring better results. We also have what we call village health teams, and in some way they're always full of women more than men. So these are the ones who go through household per household, checking out if you have what is required of a household, a latrine, you have a utensils rack, those things, and if you don't have, they fine you, those things. And which means that these are women who are able to talk to household members individually, personally. And if they keep on educating, if they're educated about the politics, the civic duty, and what they can do as citizens of the world, of the country, to make sure that, to see that we are represented in a manner that we are required of, or that is required of our representatives, then it becomes easier for people to know who they can vote, what they can consider before they vote, and what they can see in a leader before they vote for them, and what they should expect from their representatives before they vote for them. So I think that's all. As long as this affirmative action can move away from being a token, because it is a token, and it is one of those things that women are going to be saying, Seven gave us a woman member of parliament. So, and it in some way it has just become a token. There's no deeper transformation of that role that was given by the constitution to the woman who is in the deeper roots at the village level. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra, for that. Councillor Wesonga, in Kenya, our elections are termed to be more of tribal, and that's how our elections are termed as. So, how then do ethnic and identity politics, complicate the conduct of free and fair elections?
Thank you so much, Patrick, for that question. Indeed, it's not only in Kenya. I tend to believe world all over, elections tend to be tribal. If not tribal, but there's also, you identify yourself with certain sect of people, and this sect, you tend to believe that this is my home ground, and if anything, these are the people that I will count that these are the people that will do anything for me. So I also tend to believe the same is in Uganda, in Tanzania. It might not be really tribal in terms of tribal line, but home ground, where you come from. You believe that if I have to like put myself out there, my family, I expect my family to be the first people to support me. And then this will transact to my neighbors, and then and it goes on and goes on and goes on. So yes, so that is one of the biggest problems that we have. As much as it acts to the advantage of the politician, but it is something that is really eating us up, especially as Kenyans. Each and every election, we've seen people going back and aligning themselves on the tribal ground or in the tribal line, whereby if you don't come from my tribe, I will not vote for you, but I intend to vote for someone whom I believe comes from my tribal ground, or from my home ground, or whichever. So to answer your question, that how this affects the election outcomes. Basically, I would say this is one of the barriers to having a credible election. My colleague from Uganda and also from Tanzania, especially from Uganda, she has spoken about corruption. Corruption adds up to the tribal election by the end of the day. Because if you tend to look at corruption as is, tribalism is part and parcel of that corruption. Nepotism is part and parcel of that corruption. And if people tend to vote based on what I will get by the end of the day, this election, the outcome of this election will not be credible, because it will have been influenced by an external factor. So yes, we are tribal by nature. You know, human beings, even animals, I tend to believe. Even just look at, for example, look at cows. A calf will not go and breastfeed on another cow that is not its mother. So there's that instinct that this is my own from since you are born. You know, this is my own and I have to breastfeed from here. And look at chickens. If a chicken is brooding and the eggs have hatched, and another chick comes, that chicken will chase away this other one, because it believes this is not my own, and therefore I need to take care of my own first. So this chicken, she will tend to be biased against this other one, but protect its own. So I believe it's an animal instinct, but by the end of the day, it has repercussions. And the elections that we have, best or aligning ourselves on the tribal line, will be affected. The credibility of that election will be in question. So basically, it's one of the barriers to having a credible election: corruption, tribalism, nepotism. And we can counter this by being true to ourselves. What do we want? By looking at a politician not as your brother, not as your tribesman, not as your kinsman, but as, for example, in Kenya, we say as a Kenyan. What are you bringing on board? So you treat someone based on their values. You treat someone based on their manifestos. You treat someone based on the credibility of what they have done, or the history they have done, or basically what they intend to do to you as a voter. So also looking at some of the barriers to having a credible election, and also this will still spill to corruption, to tribalism, to whatnot, it's poverty. Poverty is one of the biggest barriers to having a good or credible election. If, for example, a politician comes and gives me, for example, 100 shillings, 100 Kenya shillings, it might not be much, but if on that day my family was to sleep hungry, but they have eaten something on that day, do you think I will not vote for this person? I will vote for this person just because of that 100 shillings. We also have something to do with economic stability. Instability in an economy tends to sway how we are going to vote. If someone gives you something, especially financial help, you will tend to vote for these people, notwithstanding their manifesto, notwithstanding their genuineness as far as working for electorate is concerned. My sister from Uganda spoke about civic education. You know, civic education goes to the backbone. It's like the backbone of elections. If people don't know their rights, if people don't know how to exercise their rights, if people don't know that it's their duties, it's their responsibility, it's their obligation to go vote, people tend to believe, no. My sister from Tanzania said, some of the youths or most of the youths will say, you go vote for me, or you go engage with them and then vote on my behalf. You know, that sense of, for lack of better word, I call it irresponsibility, sense of non-patriotism. So we need to have civic education that will tend to eradicate this negativity that is attached to elections. So you tend to believe, or most people tend to believe, that elections are supposed to be conducted by people who are affected by elections, or let's say by elites in the society. No. People should be educated, and they should be understanding that these elections is about your livelihood. It's about your future. So you need to go and exercise your future. You need to go and protect your future. So if the elites, for example, decide not to vote, they will be led by a stupid person. And this stupid person will come up with the stupid quote unquote suggestions how they are going to be governed. So it is our rights, it's our obligations, it's our responsibilities as elites in the society to do civic education. Before even the government comes in, we need to educate by starting with our family members. Educate your brother, educate your sister, educate your mother, educate your grandmother, educate your grandfather, educate your uncle. So that by the end of the day, if you as a family, you understand what it entails to vote, you will, or to exercise your right to vote, or even to be voted for, you will not fall a victim of tribalism. You will not fall a victim of nepotism. You will not be swayed by corrupt conduct. So basically, civic education will help. And also another barrier that listening to my counterparts, especially in Tanzania, is voter apathy, whereby people just decide not to take part in the process. It does not affect me, and therefore I'm not going to be part of it. So that is voter apathy that by the end of the day, it's affected by, or it's a result of many factors, but also tribalism can be attributed to it. So if, for example, we do civic education and whatnot, and also something that we talk about electoral reforms, it will help. Another problem that I've seen in our discussion that can lead to not having credible election or a barrier is something to do with reluctance to embrace technology. If we as a community, we as a people, we are not going to embrace technology to help us make this election credible by being verifiable, by being free, by being fair, by being auditable, we will, by the end of the day, we will tend to be corrupted by these other external factors, tribalism being part of it. Because if, for example, me as a person, my neighbor, a politician, whom I know is not quite good behavior-wise or even how social-wise, how they interact with people. They come, they quote unquote bribe me with something, and then I go to vote. I know in Kenya we vote, our votes are secret. No one will know whom I voted for. But if I put myself in the situation of the Uganda, where their primaries, they do vote the Mlolongo way, the one we discussed earlier. You see, I will tend, if this person will have to see me, I'll have like to vote for him, not because he's a good person, but just because I have taken something from him. Or if it is my kinsman, how will I would want to look like I'm not voting for my tribesman. I would want to associate myself with my tribe. But if it is, we've embraced this technology, we are voting by secret ballot, the vote is being transmitted electronically, the vote is being counted electronically. By the end of the day, I will have that urge to go and vote, notwithstanding the sureness surrounding it. So, Patrick, I think those are some of the points that I've seen that I can able to air them out right now. And back to you, back to you, Councillor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akili. Thank you, Akili, for bringing clarity on that question. To Madam Mary, in Tanzania, do we have or are we experiencing the international pressure? And if yes, how is it affecting the election?
Thank you. In Tanzania, of course, the international pressure is there, although not so much surfacing, like not so visible. But with whatever is happening with the opposition political party, there definitely is international pressure. And on how it is affecting the elections. For example, I'll tell you something. In Tanzania, we have Tanzanians who live outside Tanzania. For example, I'm sure you all know about Mange Kimambi. People like Mange Kimambi and more. Like, these people speak about the government or talk about the elections that are happening, but from outside the country. You understand? Like, and I'm also sure that some of these even have some organization out there with international organization, with people out there, government associations out there. So of course our government is facing pressure, not so much quite visible. it's just with this, like if there is no such reforms, it's mostly about the reforms, the constitutional reforms. Like if no such reforms, no elections, which I'm still seeing like the elections are coming. So I think the pressure is there, but it is getting balanced. The government is really trying itself to balance trying to balance the pressure. Like even if it is there, it is not so much visible to the people. It's not so much like having the effect on the elections, because what I'm seeing is that people are still going on with the elections and the campaigns are still going on, and so it is definitely there, but it's really in a balanced situation. Yes.
Well, okay. Thank you very much, Mary. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, of course, election is a very emotive topic, and it's the topic that can be discussed the entire day. But due to time constraint, we are coming to an end of our today's topic. And at this juncture, I would like to give everybody 2 minutes to make their final remarks. And I'll start with Abao Santro.
Thank you so much. So my closing remark is, and something that I've noticed over and over again, and what John talked about, what he called voter apathy. And one presidential candidate in Uganda, General Mugisha Muntu, once said that the elite are the ones that are bringing democracy down, because the elite in Uganda, and I don't know if it is everywhere else in East Africa, are the ones who say, I'm not going to vote. And they're the ones supposed to know what their duties are as citizens of Uganda, but they're also the ones who don't want to take part in bringing about that democracy to be witnessed in Uganda. Because you can't put, I believe that it is hard to put Uganda and democracy in one sentence, because it is something that we haven't seen in a very long time. So I believe that with the elite, who mostly fall under the youth right now, um, we have the mandate to know, like Mary said, we may have lost hope, but we are part of the saving grace. We have to be part of the change. And the youth and the elite, if we don't participate in that change, then we may never see that democracy come to happen. Thank you so much, and I am glad that I got to speak here. And again, I thank you so much, Patrick, for inviting me. And I also thank Fidau's Initiative for Academic Excellence for thinking about such an initiative to have us talk about such matters um, that actually go to the center of how we, the citizens of these countries, can impact the democracy and all the other things that can lead to the country moving upwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abao. Mary?
Thank you. What I want to say is that, first and foremost, if we want to make a change, whether in democracy, whether in the politics, whether in the elections, like I think it begins with us. It starts with us. We don't have to wait for somebody else to do it for us, or we don't have to be like, even if I do it, somebody else is going to be better than me, or somebody else will do it. Even if I'm there doing my things, like somebody will just come up. I feel like if we want to make that change, if we want to see a change happening, we have to make the change. Like we have to be able to take that step, that initiative, and work on our democracy, and work on the politics of our countries, and work on the unity, and work on every change that we want to make. I think waiting for somebody else to show up and do what we think, what we definitely are able to do, is also like what is really pulling us back. So if we want to go forward, if we want to keep going straight, we need to be able to make the change that we want to make. And what I also want to say is that I've been really happy to take part in this conversation. This is a very wonderful topic, And I'm also looking forward to being part of many more topics, many more conversations with you people. So yeah, I'm very grateful for this day. Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Council John?
Thank you so much, Wakili Patrick, for having me here. I don't take it for granted. It's been a wonderful session, I can say. And I really just need to appreciate each one of you for getting time to not only listen, but also to be part of this initiative. You know, there's this saying that normally says Rome was not built in a day. So it takes step by step by step. Today we are having this conversation. You don't know tomorrow what will happen the day after. So it takes these small bits and pieces of things that by the end of the day we will reach where we want. So just to finish off but start from where my sister Mary left. You know, change is something that you cannot argue with. As a people, we need to embrace change, because if we don't change, change will force us to change. So today we might be talking about elections. Tomorrow we might be talking about something else, but let us focus ourselves on the elections. You know, election is something that, as I earlier said, it is the bedrock of any democracy. It might not be our natural thing, but it's something that we've seen shapes democracies. So if we want to reach where other countries are, we need to embrace it. We need to change before change sweeps us on the floor and forces us to change. So I'll just like and love to leave you with the saying that says, let's embrace change, because if you don't change, change will force you to change. And thank you so much for having me here. And I really appreciate this moment, and may God bless all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wakili John, for your remarks. At this juncture, I would like to invite our President, Mr. Abdulkarim Aziz, to make his comment.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Patrick. I want to genuinely appreciate the guest speakers for being passionate about this topic. Election, like they have discussed, is something that youth must be passionate about if they are really interested in the leadership of their respective countries. The slogan of youths are the leaders of tomorrow is more or less a scam now, and it is high time for youth to be very much proactive in taking active part in politics. Not only talking about it, but getting registered, have your voters card, and then vie for political offices. Because if you fail to do that, you will leave the affairs of the population in the hands of very few not competent individuals, and it will be too late for us to complain. So that is just the point I wanted to make, that youth across Africa need to be very proactive. I can see the passion, I can see, the feelings of the guest speakers, and it shows that they're actually interested in political governance of their respective countries, especially about Sandra. Sandra, and it's very understandable. All our lives, she has had just one president, and that is not what people consider democratic. But if Ugandans decide to be voting for Muse all along, then we just need a very transparent electoral system where people can choose their leaders without fear or any intimidation. And so, once again, Mr. Patrick, thank you so much for continuously engaging scholars and youths across Africa to be part of decision making in their respective countries. And this fifth edition is an incredible one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those comments. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to having hosted you here. And of course, again, as I said, election being a very emotive topic to discuss, and especially we in East Africa. And as Ms. Karima said, sometimes I also tend to understand Sandra's perspective. It's not fair enough that since you're born, you've only seen one president. But I also presume that Mary, I think you've only been led by one party, probably since you're born by CCM. Unlike John on the other side, whom of course he has been able to see different presidents, as well as different political parties, which comes with different ideologies. And of course, as East Africa, it's our hope that as we even talk about federation or integration as a community, we gonna be the people, that is the young people, who will drive this change. And that's why we must get involved in this process. Otherwise, then, if we're told we're going to be saying is the old guys who are going to take charge and they continue promising us going to be leaders of tomorrow, then that change that we all yearn for will never happen. That reforms in their constitution that Tanzanians want, it will be impossible to be done if at all we don't have the young people in those parliament to drive the change. If we're talking about Ugandan context, Mzee will continue leading. If at all then as the young people in Uganda, they can only continue getting small bribes and they're not able to speak up. Of course, the Kenyan youth have, of course, woken up. They're able to drive changes they want. We are not saying that the Kenya have reached the epic. Of course, there's still more to be done in our country. But that is just an example of how the young people, if at all they are determined, they're united, they're able to drive change that they want. And I think, you know, Kenya is setting the pace for the rest of the countries in East Africa to follow suit, and of course also Africa at large. So for me, just to appreciate Mary, thank you very much, for being bold enough to discuss, the issues, that are affecting, of course, Tanzania and letting us what is happening. Of course, we know that it's a one-man show as it is. You'll forgive us Kenyans speak things as they are. Uh, of course, as we proceed to the election next month, we can only wish you the very best, much as, of course, we know the outcome of it. But we hope that the political detainees or the political prisoners, after the election, they'll be released and hopefully the change that the Tanzanian people are yearning for shall be effected. Of course, I've seen Mama saying, of course, as part of manifesto, should be able to, of course, change the constitution. I hope it's for the best interest of the Tanzanians as a whole. To Uganda, thank you very much, Madam Santra Barrow, again, for also having taken your time. And of course, being candid enough, to speak out things as they are in Uganda. Then again, it is our hope that come late January, I think 2026, when we'll be having your elections, we hope that you're going to have more young people in parliament, and I hopefully, of course, they'll be able to drive the change that they would wish to have, of course, moving forward. Of course, Council John, thank you very much, of course, for sacrificing your time and also be able to enlighten us on the revolution our country has taken, and of course, even with the necessary change that we are seeking for moving forward. Of course, we have 2 years in the election, 2027 August, and of course, things that they are. Of course, we are seeing the election is taking shape. And of course, as they always say, an election is not a one event. it is actually a process. And I think as East Africa community, all of us we should embrace that component that an election is not a one day event, but a process. So I really appreciate all of you for having, of course, given your best in this discussion, and of course, oozing wisdom, to our listeners and also our future listeners as well. So on behalf of FIDAU's Initiative for Academic Excellence, specifically the Department of Leadership and Good Governance that I head, just to appreciate you a lot and request you that in the future, if at all we require for your wisdom, you'll be able to grant us the opportunity and we'll be able to tap from your wisdom. With that, I thank you and wish you a blessed evening and officially declare the fifth summit officially closed. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.